A state of emergency has been declared in Nepal after a massive earthquake that has claimed at the very least 876 lives. The earthquake measures 7.9 on the Richter scale and has caused extensive damage. The Chinese Geological Department says that the intensity of this earthquake could be as much as 8.1 on the Richter scale. The earthquake brought down hundreds of buildings, old and new, in capital Kathmandu and across the country. While the death toll continues to rise, hundreds of injured people have been rushed to hospitals across Nepal. Several buildings, including century-old temples and heritage sites, have been reduced to rubble. Many roads have developed wide cracks. Kathmandu's historical Bhimsen Tower, also called the Dharara, collapsed after the earthquake. The 9-story tall tower, originally built in the 19th century, was completely destroyed in 1934 because of an earthquake, after which it was rebuilt. Many people are feared to be trapped under the debris. On your screen now are the images before and after this earthquake. My colleague Gaurav Sawant has been tracking all the very latest. This, Gaurav, is the worst earthquake to have hit Nepal in the past 80 years, and the magnitude of the devastation hasn't yet been fully understood.
It still hasn't been understood, Rahul, and what is worse, the tremors are still continuing. The latest that's coming in from across Nepal, it's not just Kathmandu, it's Pokhara, it's Lamjung, which is the epicenter of this earthquake, in Gorkha and several other parts of Nepal. The tremors are still being felt. People are so scared. They're still out on the streets. Death toll could rise to 1,000 and higher. The Indian Army, in fact, I've just been told, and that's news that's just coming in, Army Chief General Dalbir Suhag has just spoken to his Nepalese counterpart, General Gaurav Rana. He's just spoken to General Rana. He spoke to the Nepal Army Chief and said, whatever you require, just let me know and we will send it across to you immediately. 2 emergency field hospitals, they're on standby. They'll be positioned in Nepal by tomorrow. 2 engineer companies are on standby. These engineer companies will also get to Nepal, restore bridges, restore roads and start operating at a war footing.
Okay, the Indian Army, the Air Force and the NDRF also mounting a massive rescue operation. The President of Nepal reaching out to the Prime Minister. After the quake, the Tribhuvan International Airport in Nepal was closed. Flights were diverted to Delhi and Kolkata. Mobile services have been affected. The airport has since been opened, even though no Indian civil flight has been able to land in Kathmandu so far. The Indian government has assured Nepal all possible help. So far, 3 Indian Air Force aircraft C-130J, the Globemaster, the IL-76 are ready to take off from the Palam airport and also from the Hindon Air Base to Kathmandu. The C-17 Globemaster has taken off with Air Force Rapid Action medical teams. 1 team of NDRF comprising 45 Jawans left for Nepal at 3:45 p.m. from the Hindon airport, while 5 teams are waiting at Hindon. Apart from that, 10 to 15 national disaster management teams are being rushed to Nepal for rescue and relief operations. Clearly, India going all out, Gaurav, to try and ensure that maximum amount of help can be flown in. What is likely to happen overnight, Gaurav?
Well, at this point of time, like Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, Nepal's pain is India's pain. Even before Nepal officially asked India for help, even as the Nepal cabinet was meeting, the Prime Minister held an emergency meeting in Delhi, and all effort, the Indian Army, the Indian Air Force, the NDRF, they came together, they mounted an operation, and by 4 o'clock, the first aircraft was ready to take off. The C-130 has already taken off. The C-17 and the IL-76 will be taking off shortly. And clearly, Rahul, all effort being made at this point of time.
Baba Ramdev is speaking at this time. He was in Kathmandu for a Yog Shivir. Let's listen to what he's saying.
बीच में फासला कितना कम होता है, ये तो पहले भी देखा था थोड़ा बहुत, लेकिन आज जो दोपहर को देखा, माने यदि 1 मिनट भी मैं देरी से निकलता पंडाल से, तो वहाँ हजारों लोगों की लाशें बीत सकती थी। 1 मिनट पहले निकला, कुछ लोग मंच के दाईं ओर से निकल गई, कुछ बाईं ओर से, कुछ पीछे से, कुछ आगे से, और पंडाल लगभग खाली हो गया था। जैसे ही बाहर निकला तो दाहिनी तरफ देखा तो एक 4-5 मंजिली इमारत थी, वो ताश के पत्तों की तरह गिर रही थी। जैसे ही बाईं तरफ देखा तो जो 4-5 हजार लोगों के लिए टीन शेड का पंडाल बना हुआ था पूरा जमीन पर बिछ चुका था। सामने देखा तो 40-50 फीट ऊंचे ऊंचे पेड़ गिरे हुए थे। मैं जिस गाड़ी में बैठा तो गाड़ी जो है ऊपर नीचे हो रही थी, और मैं बाहर निकला तो मैं खुद ही जो ऊपर नीचे हो रहा था। मुझे ही नहीं पता लगा कुछ क्षणों के लिए कि ये हो क्या रहा है। थोड़ी देर बाद जब बात समझ में आई तो पता लगा ये तो भूकंप है। और उसी के अगले क्षण में देखता हूं कि कुछ लोग मेरे सामने जमीन पर लेटे हुए, किसी का सिर फटा हुआ है, करीब 60 लोग उसमें घायल हुए। लेकिन यह भी भगवत कृपा की यह 1 मिनट पहले जो है कार्यक्रम संपन्न हो गया। यदि 1 मिनट की भी देरी होती तो बहुत बड़ा अनर्थ हो सकता था। अभी जैसा कि मैंने दोपहर को भी चैनल्स पर बताया था कि सैकड़ों लोगों की संभावना है मरने की, लेकिन अभी तक जो आंकड़े आए हैं वो सैकड़ों की संख्या में तो आ चुके हैं। मैं अभी इसमें ज़्यादा कहना नहीं चाहता, लेकिन बहुत बड़ा जान माल का नुकसान हुआ है। और मात्र एक ऐतिहासिक इमारत के ढहने की ही बात नहीं, जो धरहरा था कि जो 9 मंजिल का था उसमें सैकड़ों लोग तो दफन हो गए। लेकिन उसके अलावा यहाँ कई बिल्डिंगें काठमांडू से लेकर के, पोखरा से लेकर के और लुम्बिनी से लेकर के पूरे नेपाल में, और इसका असर भारत तक गया है। जो सैकड़ों और संभावना है हजारों लोग जो इस त्रासदी में दिवंगत हो गए, उनके लिए हमारी श्रद्धांजलि। उनके परिजनों को भगवान इस गम को सहने की शक्ति दे। और हमने तो इसके बाद भी यहाँ पर आकर के हवन किया, प्रार्थना की और अपने सभी कार्यकर्ताओं को सेवा में लगाया हुआ है। अभी भी जहाँ मेरा कैंप चल रहा था वहाँ करीब 40-50 हजार लोग सुबह आकर के योग कर रहे थे। वहाँ अभी लाखों की संख्या में लोग बैठे हुए हैं। मैंने पहले तो सोचा कि सबके लिए ताज़ा भोजन बना दें, लेकिन वैसा अभी संभव नहीं हो पा रहा है और उसमें भी भगदड़ मचने की संभावना है, तो बड़ा संभल करके सेवा करनी पड़ रही है। तो हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि वहाँ सब लोगों तक हम पानी और पतंजलि के बिस्किट, क्योंकि यहाँ पर भी पतंजलि आयुर्वेद का पूरा सामान है। जैसे हमने पहाड़ में उत्तराखंड में त्रासदी आई तो वहाँ पर जो है 40-50 ट्रक हमने बिस्किट के और पानी के सबसे पहले भिजवाए। ऐसे यहाँ पर भी हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं जितना भी हमें पानी उपलब्ध हो जाएगा, जितने भी हमें पतंजलि के बिस्किट से लेकर के और जो भी रेडीमेड जो है खाने का सामान तैयार हो जाएगा उन लोगों तक पहुंचाने की लिए हमने सब कार्यकर्ताओं को लगा दिया है। तो इस सेवा में भी हमारे सभी कार्यकर्ता लगे हैं। और जहां जहां लोग फंसे हुए हैं, मैं सबसे एक अहम बात ये कहना चाहूँगा कि यहाँ का प्रशासन बहुत मुस्तैद है, पुलिस से लेकर।
He is with us at the Hindon airport. With us also is Indrajit Kundu. He is at Kolkata. Several of the flights from Kathmandu were diverted to Kolkata. I want to first go to Jugal about how many Indian sorties have taken off for Nepal. Where are these sorties being sent? What kind of relief and rescue material is being sent on them? And what will happen over the next few hours, Jugal?
Well, Rahul, what we are to see over the next few hours, next few days and possibly weeks will be a humongous operation by the Indian Armed Forces on the whole. There's the Air Force, there's the NDRF, the Army is on the standby. In fact, one team which is doing an expedition of the Indian Army at the base camp has managed to extricate several of those stranded after this particular earthquake shook Nepal and parts of India. What we are seeing, Rahul, today, 2 sorties already taken off, one in a C-130J Hercules plane and the other in a C-17 Globemaster, both of them carrying important teams of the NDRF. In fact, behind me is another C-17 which is being readied right now with a field hospital. We've spoken to the staff, women, officers of the Indian Air Force, doctors who are going to be leading this operation. So in a sense, it's not only restricted to manpower to cut through the debris, to extricate people, it's also being looked at from the medical point of view, because saving a life and limb right now is possibly the most important contribution that can be made. So for that, a field hospital is being airlifted from here to Nepal. Tomorrow I'm given to understand that full operational theatres will be launched from India to Nepal. So the effort is going to be to ensure that the Nepalese authority, their capacity is built up, and also Indian authorities on their own independently can operate in Nepal. I'm also given to understand, Rahul, that apart from these giant planes of the Indian Air Force, the largest that they have, another IL-76 has taken off from Bathinda with NDRF men. And also, most importantly, since it's only Kathmandu that we are speaking about, and there are many more areas of Nepal which need help, Indian Air Force is also launching several helicopter sorties. Where we saw
okay, stay with me, Jugal. I want to go across to Utpal Mishra. He's a senior journalist. He's joining us from Kathmandu this evening. Utpal, give our viewers a sense of the latest from across Nepal. What can you share with us?
Well, right now the situation here in Kathmandu especially and different parts of Nepal is very difficult. In terms of that, the government has announced via different media, local media here, that with reference from the Department of Meteorology and Seismology, that people should keep awake until 11 p.m. in the night, so that they are expecting another tremor which might be coming up. And therefore, I have been around the city. I'm still in the city, roaming around with my motorbike, and I am watching that people are making tents on the street so that they don't have to enter their homes once again, unless and until they are confident from the government side, or they are assured from the government side that it's safer to go inside your home. So this is the scenario right now.
Okay, and what about water? What about electricity? What about the rescue operations being mounted by the government in Nepal?
Well, water crisis is immense. Water vehicles are not flying anywhere, though people are demanding they need supply of water. And supply of water is gone down. One of the reasons is that we don't have electricity here. Since the earthquake started at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So since then, there is no electricity, and since there is no electricity, there is no water by nature. So from the government side, they are not doing anything regarding water and other things. But the other part is rescuing people who are trapped at their homes, or those who are those who have reached the hospital. They are being treated well. There are several camps being set up in the major hospitals run by the government or even by the private sector. And into those camps, they are treating the injuries as they approach there. And the critically injured are taken inside, while minor injuries and other things are being treated outside. That's the scenario here.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Utpal Mishra, thank you very much. I want to introduce now Professor G.S. Roonwal. He's a geologist, and with us also is Anjali Quatra. She's a former member of the NDMA. Thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast. I want to ask Professor Roonwal first, because from what Utpal just told us, people are very concerned about the possibility of there being more aftershocks or there being another earthquake. How real is that possibility, and what should people really be doing under these circumstances?
Well, this apprehension is true because it's a very large earthquake. Maybe when we calculate, the intensity would be 8 plus any case, and therefore it is anticipated that there will be quite strong aftershocks, and it could continue for maybe a couple of days. It is also possible in the worst situation that there could be another event coming, but not probably as strong as this. But
does that happen very often?
It doesn't happen very often, but it can happen, and like it happened in the Sumatra earthquake. So it is possible, and you see, total Himalaya is such a sensitive area because it's an Indian plate which is pushing into the Siberian plate. And what are Himalayas? It's just the base sea which had all the sediments. They get compressed because of the Indian plate moving northwest, northward, and that's how the Himalayas are uplifted. So this is still going on. This process is going on. It's a very slow spread, slow pushing process, unlike very fast where I worked up to 14 centimeters a year movement. But this is relatively very, very slow. So, but yes, nevertheless, it is risky. And so it is absolutely important to understand that this process of earthquake.
Stay with me for a moment. The Director General of the NDRF, OP Singh, is joining us on this broadcast. Mr. Singh, give our viewers the latest update of the kind of rescue operations that the NDRF is trying to mount at this time.
You mean to say Nepal or India?
Both, sir, both. Let me start first with Nepal.
We are sending 10 teams to Nepal. We have already dispatched 7 teams. 3 would be going very shortly, maybe today in the night or maybe tomorrow morning, early morning. All these 7 teams have already reached there in Kathmandu. And they are going to mount their operations tomorrow early morning. They are in touch with the embassy there, and they'll be given the task to fan out to the various areas. And they have carried out all the equipment with them, be it the earthquake management equipment or the communications equipment. They have taken along with them the search equipment like light detectors, victim locating cameras, breathing equipment, which is self-contained. They have also the airlifting bags. On top of it, they are also having 2 dogs. 2 dogs have already been dispatched. 4 are going to go to Kathmandu, and along with them, we'll be having 8 dogs in totality, and there would be a medical component. Doctors would be there, the paramedics would be there, nursing assistants would be there. We are carrying stretchers also for the people who are trapped there inside the debris. And then on communications front, since we have had a very bitter experience elsewhere, so we thought that we must carry our satellite phones as well. So all these equipments are there with the teams, and they are ready to mount their operations.
Okay, this is as far as Kathmandu is concerned, Nepal is concerned. What about in India? What about NDRF rescue operations in the various quake-hit areas of India?
You know, the badly hit state is Bihar, and to some extent eastern UP. And 5 teams have already been deployed in these 2 states. In Bihar, we have deployed 4 teams in Supal, Darbhanga, Motihari, and Gopalganj. And in UP, we have our teams in Gorakhpur as well as in Varanasi. And some damages have been reported from these districts of eastern UP and Bihar. And that is why the teams have all been equipped with the same equipments which I reported earlier. And they will be there to help the people there. In some of the areas, the medical teams are also working day in and day out, and we had a video conferencing with the state authorities there, and they are quite satisfied with the state of preparedness that the NDRF has with them right now, and I think the teams are working quite efficiently there.
Okay, I'm going to leave it over there. I know that you have to go back and guide the rescue teams. I'm not going to take too much of your time. OP Singh for joining us. Thank you very much. Nalini Singh runs one of Nepal's most prominent news channels. She's joining us on this broadcast. Ma'am, I hope your team is safe. How's your building? How's the equipment? How are the people?
Well, the office is on the 3rd floor, and as you've heard, that high-rise buildings have been affected less. This is what we heard initially, but in fact on the 7th floor of this building there are huge cracks. It's near the airport, and the water tanks and all, everything is toppled over. But our office personnel, fortunately nobody has been injured, but they're all on the roadside, and they've been on the roadside since
Is the station up?
We are telecasting from India, but we could not, no, they were not allowed to get into the building. In fact, we requested them not to get into the building because of these aftershocks, and also our audio video feed obviously is frozen because you know, there isn't really any link, any line. Occasionally, sporadically, we've been getting phone calls through. I just spoke to them, and they are, Kathmandu is a dark city tonight. It's without electricity. Our people, and in fact almost everybody in Kathmandu is out on the roads. Nobody has thought of food and water. I think there's a fair amount, quite a lot of terror of what might happen. Also there are low clouds. It's overcast, and we really have to hope that there's no rain tonight, because
everyone's out in the streets, and if there's rain, that would be really
and it's
terrible.
a cold night.
Give me just half a moment. I want to go across once again to Jugal, because he's got the officer who's leading the rescue operations, the officer who's in charge of transporting the people and the equipment to Nepal. With him at this time, Jugal, give our viewers a sense of the efforts being made by the Indian Air Force to mount this rescue operation, Jugal.
Yes, Rahul, I'm now joined by two men, possibly the most important role they're playing. And remember, Hindon is where we saw a lot of action during the Operation Rahat for Yemen. I was at the same airbase and the same set of faces in a very short span of time, again into the thick of things. I'm now joined first by Air Commodore Sabarwal, the Air Officer in charge. Sir, please tell us, what is it that we are going to see today, tomorrow, and for days now on? What's the kind of effort that you're mounting, sir?
Ever since after the Honorable Prime Minister chaired the meeting at 3 o'clock, we got very specific instructions from Air Headquarters and from Headquarters Western Air Command to mount these relief operations. Within a short span of time, we sent one C-130 Hercules aircraft, which carried one NDRF team comprising about 45 personnel on board. They also had paramedics and the sniper dogs and about 4 tons of relief material, specific cutting material, so that the people who are trapped could be taken out. Shortly thereafter, we launched 2 Mi-17 helicopters which took off for Gorakhpur. Thereafter, about an hour and a half back, we have launched one C-17 which has carried 2 teams of NDRF comprising about 90 personnel on board, 1 doctor and 4 medical assistants. And a very important component is Rapid Aeromedical Team. They have carried the advanced party.
Now this will set up the field hospital there.
That's right. There's a very specific equipment, and Air Vice Marshal Kharbanda, who is our principal medical officer, he'll be able to throw more light on the capabilities of Rapid Aeromedical Team's capability.
Just please stay on with us. Rahul, in this situation, saving a life and limb perhaps is the most important task that we can hope to achieve, and the man in charge of that is with me, Air Vice Marshal Kharbanda. Sir, please tell us, when you are flying in with your manpower and material, what is exactly the kind of task that you'll be doing out there? Because to think of setting up a hospital in a place which has seen such devastation is unthinkable.
See, we have what we call the Rapid Action Medical Team in the Indian Air Force. We have 3 such teams, and one of them is based in Hindon itself. This particular team is specially equipped with what we call as a tent-based medical shelter. This is one of a unique kind of a facility which the Indian Air Force has, and probably none other in the country. We, on a short notice, can deploy this in 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, 2 or 3. Starting from a 25-bedded air-conditioned ward, where we could admit and treat patients as well as save life and limbs. We could extend it to have a operation theatre, fully functional, and an ICU, where we could conduct easily 8 surgeries per day in the operation theatre. Right now, because we don't know exactly how much space and all we can deploy, we've already sent an advance team. The CEO of the Rapid Action Medical Team has already landed there.
Okay.
They're doing the recce there. They have taken initial stuff to look after people. This aircraft, what is standing here, is now fully pelletized with what we call the scenario 1. Means night when they land up, by tomorrow morning they should be able to set up the ward exactly with 25 beds.
So I want to understand, since you were on numbers, exactly how many people will your staff comprise of, and how many patients will they be able to see on a daily basis?
The team which I have sent now comprises 3 doctors, 1 trauma-trained nursing officer, and a complement of about 24 medical paramedics.
And you got that Ashton wrong. He's Air Vice Marshal Kharbanda.
Yes.
He's in charge of medical operations.
And they have been trained
Don't
for this.
designation.
And I also have sent some technicians who will look after the generation, the whatever captive supply we got. We can cater to, say, 100 casualties, 100 to 120 casualties in a go over a day. And I have got enough stocks to sustain me for 7 days. Not only this, based on the instructions from my Director General, he is actually monitoring it minute to minute, the entire operation. We have 3 or 4 such small teams already kept in readiness in case I have to supplement tomorrow. We have arranged for beds in case we start getting casualties, crisis expansion in Hindon, in Delhi, Palam itself. And we've also got our medical bricks being readied. As and when we require, maybe with every flight, we'll start supplementing them.
In fact, I'm sorry, sir, we've shot a detailed sequence, Rahul, with the staff, the officers, the equipment, which I'm sure our viewers will be able to see. And one last question before I let Air Commodore go. Sir, Hindon is home to the largest set of transport planes that we have. Tell me, over the next few days, what's the kind of effort that you will be putting in terms of sorties, manpower, and the entire effort?
We have full capability to carry out this kind of a relief operation for as long as it is required to be undertaken. And for that, very clear-cut instructions are being given to us. Our teams at air headquarters, our senior officers are constantly in touch and they are monitoring what is happening exactly over there. So to us, we are ready. What I exactly know is that tomorrow morning we are launching 2 more missions, apart from one aircraft which is going to get airborne in about an hour's time from here. And thereafter, we will get specific instructions in the morning and we shall keep launching the missions till the time they're
One
required.
final question, because there's a lot of viewer interest in this. What is the situation that your team, which has already landed in the C-130, reporting about Kathmandu, about Nepal, the state of the airport as well, sir?
What messages we have got from there is that there is a lot of devastation which is in and around, especially in built-up areas. The airport as of now is available and it is capable of taking our aircraft. Please remember that our aircraft are very special and they have an ability to land in austere airfields. So that is why this is a very, very specific capability, and probably that is the reason why we have been tasked to undertake such operations.
Okay. So there you have it, Rahul, the biggest assets of the Indian Air Force and the man commanding them telling us that they can carry on and on and on. Back to you.
Thank you very much. We've got lots more information coming in, including the fact that a 2-star Indian general will be sent to Nepal to supervise this entire rescue mission. You're watching our live and continuing coverage of the devastating earthquake in Nepal. Gaurav Sawant has more information about an Indian Army general being sent by the Prime Minister to Nepal to supervise these rescue operations. Gaurav.
That's right. Major General J. Sandhu, he's Additional Director General Staff Duties at Army Headquarters. He's being dispatched to Nepal even as we speak. He would be on board one of these C-130 aircraft that is going to Nepal. Now, you're sending a senior officer so that he can be in touch with the Nepal Army, with the Indian Army, and ensure that all decisions are taken on ground. There are no bottlenecks and every decision can be taken immediately. He's going to be there. 2 emergency hospitals, plug-and-play hospitals are being set up. You need orthopedic surgeons because there will be a lot of injuries, bone injuries. So these doctors will take care of those injuries. 2 engineer teams are being sent there to rebuild roads, to rebuild bridges. Nepal has to be brought back on its feet. What is also extremely crucial at this point of time, Rahul, the C-130J that's landed there, it will pick up 250 Indians to bring them back. Not only that, it will fly very low. You are well aware, Rahul, that a C-130J can fly extremely low. It will fly along the land route from Kathmandu to Pokhara to assess the damage to the land route, and then additional supplies can be moved on road. And where do these bulldozers and JCBs need to be dropped to rebuild road? All of that assessment will take place so that work starts on a war footing first thing tomorrow morning.
Nali, what's the word that you're getting in from your stringers, your reporters all across Nepal? What's the extent of the devastation?
Do you know, I think that the intense losses are in the Kathmandu area. Kathmandu, Lamjung, a little bit west.
Is that
also,
because the density of population is highest in that area?
No, because I think the epicenter was in there are 4 places that are being mentioned to us since the morning by our reporters. One of them is South Tibet. South Tibet. Then there is Gorkha, which is the ancient place where Nepal actually originated. Then there is Kaski, which is Pokhara. Pokhara is not the center, but you've got Gorkha, you've got Rasua, and you've got South Tibet. So I would say, and all of them, the highest density of population is in Kathmandu. So you've got it there. But what's very, very amazing is that these are west of Kathmandu. Now, from the west, Mount Everest is northeast of Kathmandu. You have 18 deaths at base camp in Mount Everest. Then you've got the Janakpur Janki Mandir, the very famous Janki Mandir in Janakpur, that has suffered a lot of damage. Now, what's interesting is that from west to east, including the north, it's the north to south is not such a big area over there, but west to east, what kind of plates were these that when they hit from Gorkha to the west, in fact Kaski to the west, to Janakpur in the east, to the Mount Everest, Solukhumbu in the northeast, Okhaldunga, which is southeast of Solukhumbu, has had deaths. So in fact, it is an amazing natural phenomena, which is, you know, normally you can say, okay, this was the worst hit. So Kathmandu area is the worst hit, but you've got deaths all over.
Spread all across Nepal. My colleague Pankaj Das, who's TV Today Network's stringer in Kathmandu, has sent us a dispatch. Let's listen to what Pankaj is reporting from the ground.
भारत से भी काफ़ी लोग यहाँ पे टूडी खेल में जमा हुए हैं। जो लोग यहाँ पे रहते हैं किसी काम के सिलसिले में यहाँ पे आए हुए थे, उनसे बात करते हैं कि उनकी क्या स्थिति है इस समय। आप कहाँ से आए हैं?
हम ओडिशा से आए हैं और यहाँ से जो पहले भूमिकंप आया था तो मुझे लगा कि शायद मैं आज निकल जाऊँ और डर से पूरा यहाँ तक चले गया और यहाँ जो वातावरण था लगा कि हाँ ठीक हूँ, मैं महफूज रह सकता हूँ। लेकिन काफ़ी सारे लोग जो उनका जो हिस्ट्री जो था सुंदरा वो भी टूट के आज बिखर गया और सारे लोग वहाँ पर चल बसे। तो बस यही कहना चाहता हूँ सारे
भारत से भी सैकड़ों की संख्या में लोग यहाँ पे जो काठमांडू में रहते हैं वो भी यहाँ पे टूडी खेल में इस वक्त जमा है, क्योंकि उनको आशंका है कि रात में भी भूकंप के झटके फिर से आ सकते हैं। काठमांडू से पंकज दास, आज तक।
That's the one fear, the possibility of there being other aftershocks, the possibility of another earthquake. Anjali Quatra, you've been looking at responses to such disasters very carefully. How does the response being mounted now by the Indian government compare with past responses?
First thing I want to clarify, I've been NDMA's task force committee member, not a member. They are ministry level people. And second thing I think most important is it's praiseworthy. India's response, the promptness with which it has been done, it's really praiseworthy. And I think our PM Modi's past experience with Bhuj earthquake has made him a very efficient manager as far as disaster management is concerned, we can say for that. And the redevelopment that happened in Gujarat after the Bhuj earthquake has also been praised worldwide. You know, in all international conferences we praise it. So we have an expert as a Prime Minister in disaster management. As far as response you asked, I think India, as far as earthquakes are concerned, our response as far as technology is concerned we have, but what is missing is the implementation of a lot of laws. And even in the fact that each state should have a disaster response force of its own, each district should have its own disaster response force, all that which is there as far as legislations are concerned, the NDMA's guidelines are concerned, they have not been implemented because that is a state government subject.
I want to go across at this time to Kolkata. Indrajit Kundu, my correspondent, is joining us from Kolkata. Several of the flights from Kathmandu were in fact diverted to Kolkata. Indrajit, did you get an opportunity to speak to people who'd been evacuated from Kolkata? What did they have to say?
Well, you know, there are no passengers who have been brought to Calcutta so far, but the West Bengal government is making efforts. It is in touch with the central government. In fact, the resident commissioner of West Bengal in Delhi has been asked to be the person to liaise with the central government. Mamata Banerjee, of course, has already spoken to the Prime Minister about it. And just a short while back, you know, there was a lot of apprehension about a team of mountaineers who seem to have, you know, got themselves stuck at the Everest base camp. And a lot of them are from West Bengal. One of them is from the West Bengal police. Now, just a short while back, the Chief Minister on a Twitter handle has announced that there has been some contact that has been established with that team, and they have stated that all these mountaineers from West Bengal at the base camp are safe. There are other you know, tourists who are stranded in Kathmandu and Nepal, various parts of Nepal from West Bengal, and the West Bengal government is in touch with the central government to bring them home safely.
Nirvana Chaudhary is a businessman from Kathmandu. He's joining us via Skype on this broadcast. Mr. Chaudhary, I hope you, your family and everyone around you are doing okay. Give our viewers a sense of the latest that you see around Kathmandu at this time.
Yes, everyone in the family is doing well by the grace of God, and but Kathmandu, obviously the roads, the building, the infrastructure, some of our most oldest temples is all disrupted. There's been a huge loss of a lot of deaths around Nepal. The last toll was approximately 800 people, and I'm sure, you know, as we go along the night, they'll be able to recover more. But definitely, our city, our country is going through a huge devastation, the calamity that we've all witnessed today.
Can you describe where you were when this earthquake struck and what was it around you? How was it around you at that time?
Well, actually, I was in a part which is about 150 kilometers away from Kathmandu, but also closer to the epicenter, which is near a place called Amjung, which is about western Nepal, where the epicenter was about 35 kilometers away. So I did feel the entire earthquake, and we were in the process of setting up a new wildlife resort in Nepal, and definitely we could feel the tremors of the earthquake. But I was continuously on chat and in talks with everyone back in Kathmandu, and they were showing me the photos, what was happening, and I mean, there's definitely a huge shock that was going on. People were just absolutely devastated, confused, but in a matter of time, a lot of support from our region, within Nepal, the NGOs, the various government bodies, even from India, everyone immediately within a matter of 2-3 hours, they've sort of dispatched a lot of relief workers in Nepal, within Kathmandu, like companies like ours. Since we had an FMCG, we immediately got a lot of food material.
Situation with the electricity and the water supply, Nirvana. What's the situation with the electricity and the water?
Yes, there's definitely a lot of loss in the electricity right now. People are still trying to, initially first 2-3 hours, they were trying to use generators. And again, because of the destruction in the road, there's also a little bit of problem in transporting the diesel from one house to the other. So that is why there's also an electricity problem. They're definitely trying to fix a lot of transmission grid and lines along the capital, especially where majority of the devastation has taken place. But so far, we are slowly seeing parts of it come on. But yet, people are still outside their homes, trying to stay outdoors and trying to just keep their fingers crossed. That they're hoping that there won't be any aftershocks and furthermore earthquakes coming in.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chaudhary, for joining us this evening. Stay safe. Is this a good idea, Professor Rundal, for people to stay out? Wood buildings have been impacted so much so that it's better to spend the night out than to be in?
Yes, after the earthquake, if there is a building which is developed crack, I think it is safer to stay out in tents or whatever. However, at the time of earthquake, if you are in a high-rise building or let's say a couple of floors, then the best thing is to hide yourself under a table.
Why under a table? Because the
head injury is, if there is anything, debris falling, then you are safe because of the table. If you don't have a table, go under the bed.
But that bed could come down on you.
No, it won't. I mean, the debris won't be that big. Anyway, it will save much more safer than just getting on your head.
Okay, now listen, one of the problems in Kathmandu and around is that some of these buildings are very ancient buildings, and therefore the construction quality and the material used is very old, and that makes them that much more susceptible to falling, to breaking, to collapsing.
I don't really know what to say, because it's true that the ancient, the older, very old buildings have been reduced to rubble. On the other hand, the Sri Pashupatinath temple complex is absolutely intact. Nothing has happened there. But it's true that the older buildings made of, I think, only mud and, really basically mud and some lime, etc. Those buildings have come down. But I must say to you that the high-rise buildings that have survived, to me that's amazing, because in Kathmandu they are flouting every construction norm, and when you are there you're actually just wondering, is there nobody looking at this as here, as in India? But I must
Kathmandu, it's true, is absolutely now an overgrown urban jungle. It's a complete mess.
So it'll have to come to its senses, if I may say. But I must go back to this thing, but India having helped immediately, it's true, but we must realize that this is the new normal now, that we are now living, Kathmandu, Nepal is one of the closest countries to us. So we cannot take even a nanosecond. Our reflexes must be such that any of our neighbors needs help, we've just got to go. That's the new normal.
In fact, the Prime Minister and his government moved even before the government in Nepal had officially sought our help. We're told that the telecom companies are getting into the act and they're promising free calls. Gaurav Sawant has more. Gaurav?
Well, what's happened at this stage is BSNL initially announced, Ravi Shankar Prasad said all calls made to Nepal for the next 3 days, and that is because, as Nalini Singh was rightly pointing out, a large number of people from Nepal live in India and vice versa. They want to get in touch with their families, so no international calling. Next 3 days, BSNL, all calls to Nepal will be seen as local calls. Airtel has now gone a step ahead. Airtel has announced all calls to Nepal for the next 3 days would be absolutely free. And this is also very crucial, Rahul, if we were to talk about the Indian Army. It has the Gorkha Rifles Regiment. There are 38,000 serving Nepalese soldiers in the Indian Army. If we were to talk about veterans, it's 1.25 lakh veterans in Nepal and their association with India. So that is one channel that has also been mobilized. General Dalbir Singh, the Army Chief, has spoken to his counterpart. The Gorkha Rifles Regimental Center has been activated so that at the Gorkha net, one gets in touch with the other and finds out about the welfare and well-being of the others immediately, and that is the network which once again is working extremely fast. As Nalini Singh rightly pointed out, two countries extremely close to each other, and that bond only has to be strengthened now.
And the Nepali nationals in India, according to the Ministry of External Affairs India, that number is about 60 lakh. And we have about 1.2 crore of our Indian nationals who speak Nepali, and how interwoven they are. Nirvan Chaudhary, who just spoke to you from Kathmandu on Skype, his brother is in Gurgaon, Barun Chaudhary, tonight. So, you know, this is how interwoven this entire, our communities are. So, if we do not, if we do not rise to help them right now, I don't know when we will. But we've done it, to be absolutely fair to the government of India.
There were at least 18 mountaineers at the base camp of Mount Everest who were feared dead in this earthquake. Gaurav, you've been speaking to several of the mountaineers who are in that general area. What are they telling you? There was apparently an avalanche that came down on them?
Immediately after the earthquake, there was a massive avalanche at Mount Everest. Now, the Indian Army has a team at Mount Everest. They were to scale the Mount Everest in the coming week. Today, fortunately, they were on a separate exercise away from Mount Everest. But as soon as this information filtered in, at the Khumba Ice Falls, they gave up their exercise. They returned immediately. The base camp, Rahul, is at 18,000 feet. Camp 1 and Camp 2 are higher, 19,000 feet plus altitude. 18 foreign mountaineers died, unfortunately.
Which countries are these people from?
The details are still not known. They're from various nationalities. Fortunately, no Indian in that. But
there's an Indian Army team there as well.
Yes, the Indian Army Everest team, it got onto the rescue operation. They succeeded in bringing back 13 dead bodies of foreign
So where
mountaineers.
was the Indian Army team when this earthquake happened?
They were at the Khumba Ice Falls, which is some distance away.
There was no avalanche there?
There was no avalanche there. They returned from there at 18,000 feet altitude and then climbed up to Camp 1. 18 bodies were brought down, and this was an international effort. The Indians were a part of it.
So were there teams of mountaineers who were on their way up?
Yes,
at this time, because this is the season when this is the window of opportunity for people to scale the Everest.
And the climbing expedition is on. This is actually a festival season for trekkers and climbers. So this is an auspicious time to climb. So that is where the climbing was on. The Indian Army is
to scale. Do we know how many teams were on their way up to Everest?
The Sagar Matha Foundation is to still give out that information because a lot of communication networks are down. But the information is that 18 mountaineers unfortunately passed away. 18 bodies were brought down. 13 of them were brought down by the Indian Army. The Indian Army is now going up once again to look for those overnight who could be missing. And every minute is extremely important, so they're looking for people to bring down.
And that actually, Nalini, is quite dangerous, to be up in those mountains at night and try and mount another rescue operation. So the Indian Army going out of its way to try and it's important to go out actually because you've got very few hours to be able to save people who might be buried in the debris.
Actually, the window of and this is real opportunity to save human lives. That window is so short, and we all must hope that there are no rains in those areas tonight, especially in the densely populated area. But the Himalayas, I mean, Mount Everest area, one cannot even fathom what's going on. But just moving for just 10 seconds from there to Bihar, where, you know, you've had such a storm. All the crops have been flattened just day before yesterday. And today you have earthquake and you've got 25 people at last count who've been killed.
So another 1 week, the probability of the avalanches and landslides is still there. So one can never be sure when the aftershocks.
Yes.
At this time, I hope all the... What should the teams that are ascending Mount Everest really be doing? Should they be falling back?
In one case, they cannot even fall back because the route that is traditionally used to fall back beyond Camp 1, that route is destroyed. So those who are up are trapped there, those who are down here. So now there will be an effort to ensure that those who are trapped up there, Camp 2, Camp 3, Camp 4 and then the summit, the effort will then be made to bring them down. Those numbers will only be known to those who are at Camp 1, but because of the avalanche, a part of Camp 1 has been destroyed. So information filtering
Professor
out
Unwal, are avalanches very common after earthquakes?
Yeah, sure. Like the earthquake will lead to a lot of landslide in non-snow area. Here it's also landslide, but
but does it immediately lead to a landslide, or does the landslide happen in the days to come as well?
It immediately lead and it can continue. Whatever is loose material will continue.
Also. You never know what has been damaged, how weak the structure.
Loosened will continue to fall.
And these are amongst the most unstable mountain ranges in the world.
Right.
And therefore the possibility of landslide, avalanches that much more. And as
even the severity of this earthquake, initial assessments, they are always underestimates.
Yes.
You know, because this is only based on online seismological data. Once the field observations come in, it may be just revised to a higher.
The Chinese already saying that this earthquake is at least 8.1 on the Richter scale. It's Nepal's worst ever tragedy. A powerful earthquake measuring 7.9 on the Richter scale shook Nepal at 10:40 a.m. this morning. At least 17 aftershocks followed, including one that toppled the 19th century Dharhara tower and triggered an avalanche in the Himalayas. The epicenter of the earthquake is Lamjung, and the worst affected districts are Kathmandu, Bhaktapur and Lalitpur. The overall death toll in Nepal is touching 1,500, and it could get a lot worse.
Untold devastation, nature's terrifying ambush. Horrified citizens scattered everywhere, heritage sites reduced to rubble. On Saturday, this is what a massive earthquake did to the densely populated Kathmandu Valley. Measuring 7.9 on the Richter scale and thundering across Nepal this morning, the earthquake's devastation is still playing out. Its immediate impact was a heavy loss of life and destruction across the mountain nation. Kathmandu's historical Bhimsen Tower, also called Dharhara, collapsed after the earthquake. The city's iconic Darbar Square, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, also reduced to ruins. As the death toll continues to rise, hundreds of injured people are battling for their life in hospitals across Nepal.
काफी सारे लोग जो उनका जो हिस्ट्री जो था सुंदरा वो भी टूट के आज बिखर गया और सारे लोग वहाँ पर चले गए।
सरकार से भी कोई खबर नहीं आया है, सबसे पीछे थे, संबंध पीछे थे। हमको बहुत डर लगा है, तो क्या करे, कुछ पता नहीं।
PM Narendra Modi spoke to Nepal's President Ram Baran Yadav and later to PM Sushil Koirala in the day and offered all assistance to the Himalayan nation. India's multi-pronged response is playing out, coordinated at the highest levels of government.
मैंने नेपाल के प्रधानमंत्री जी से, राष्ट्रपति जी से बात की और विश्वास दिलाया है कि सवा सौ करोड़ देशवासी आपकी इस मुसीबत आपके साथ है।
Prime Minister has indicated to the President of Nepal and the Prime Minister of Nepal that India will do everything within its capabilities to be of help to Nepal.
The government of India have already sent a team for rescue work in Nepal,
right.
And we do hope that government of Nepal may request for other countries or India for more help if needed.
So, we are carrying 6 teams. One team has already left. 5 more teams are here. They are boarding the aircraft and we are leaving for Kathmandu, and we are leaving with all kind of search and rescue equipment.
As the true reality of the quake sets in, the rescue of Nepal is now an international effort. And with thousands still feared trapped under hundreds of tons of debris, the race is truly against time. Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
The latest information that we are getting is that an American team, an American disaster relief team, is also being sent to Nepal to help with the rescue operations. Joining us now in the studio is Nalini Singh. She runs one of the biggest news channels in Kathmandu. Ma'am, you've been speaking to all your reporters, stringers all across Nepal. What are they telling you about the scale of devastation which is only now beginning to emerge?
Well, actually, we haven't been able to get through to everybody. Telecommunication is a real problem. We've lost our audio-video lines, but when we do get through, it's on the mobile. We are not able to get through on the landline at all. When we get through, it's mostly to Kathmandu. We've not been able to get through, for instance, even to Janakpur. So there seems to be some sort of national tightening of the grid, which will probably happen in the next few days. But what they're saying is that where the epicenter was, and they keep mentioning 4 points as epicenter, which cannot be. But apparently these were all in the the northwestern part of Nepal, but not exactly extreme west, but south of Tibet. And I think the devastation really is where the population density was the highest, which was the Kathmandu Valley. And also, if you are looking at per capita deaths in terms of where we are not expecting them, then the Everest Camp 1 seems to be the one. And I was mentioning earlier that this is the most, when we have got through, unfortunately, they've told somebody to tell us. So we are not able to talk to them directly. But what's happening is that it seems to range from the west to the east to Lumbini, even to Lumbini.
Has Nepal seen an earthquake of this magnitude earlier?
I think of course the 1934 was a devastating one, but the Tarai region was more affected at that time, which is just north of Bihar. But at this time, and I think that they had, when Uttarakhand had a very huge earthquake in the early 2000s, somewhere there, 1999 or 2000 or something. At that time also Nepal was very deeply affected. But
I'm told this is the worst earthquake in Nepal in the past 80 years.
Yes, that's absolutely. That means that you are going back to the 1934 earthquake. When you say 80 years, I was just calculating the president's palace, Sheetal Nivas. It is a palace because it was a hunting lodge made by some Maharaja for somebody. That is itself 85 years, and that is a ground floor plus 2 floors plus a little bit more, and that's a very old structure. So I'm sure Sheetal Nivas is probably where Dr. Ambaran Yadav, the president, is, and I'm sure it's being looked after. But Beer Hospital, I just caught a little glimpse of Beer Hospital. What happened is that at the time of the earthquake, all the patients, whoever could hobble out or crawl out or whatever, they came out. Now the patients from the rest of Kathmandu were brought in there. In fact, I see it behind you again. What's happening is that hospitals have these courtyards in front, where cars should be parked, where patients are parked just now. It's a cold night. It's going to go down to about 14 degrees or something. It was 17 degrees when I came, and that was an hour ago. And so when you go in, when you go into the night, it's going to be a cold night. So you've got that also. And I think when the loss, the loss of lives being disrupted in this devastating manner, that's one thing. When they wake up tomorrow morning, when they wake up to the reality tomorrow morning and realize that these, you were mentioning this UNESCO architecture, it's not UNESCO. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that every Nepali sets such a high store by the beauty of Patan, by those extremely, extremely intricate, beautiful structures in Patan. This tower, the Tharara Minar that fell, was another tourist thing. And today being Saturday, as I was mentioning earlier, that Saturday is their Sunday, to the public holiday. So a lot of Nepalis, unlike other communities, Nepalis like having a good time. So they would have gone out with their families to this Minar, to Patan area.
Okay, Gaurav, give us the latest on the rescue operations being mounted by the Indian government to try and help provide some succor to Nepal.
The second C-130 aircraft has just landed. The C-17 Globemaster
has
just
taking
landed.
With them?
emergency rescue teams, medicines,
Where
doctors.
are they going? Kathmandu?
They're all landing at Kathmandu. Now the Kathmandu airport slightly damaged, not very extensively damaged. That's the report that has just come in. So these aircraft are able to land, and these are specialty
I'm told
aircraft.
that there are tremors being felt in Delhi just moments before now. There have been fresh tremors. This, of course, usually happens after earthquakes. 4.3 on the Richter scale. That's just the initial information that we're getting. And we've got Professor Runwal, who's a geologist. If people are at home, 4.07 is not very severe on the Richter scale, but it is an earthquake nonetheless. What should people who are watching this broadcast be doing at this time, sir?
Well, you know, this Nepal earthquake was a very severe earthquake, and it is anticipated that for quite some time the aftershocks will continue. The intensity of aftershock.
Is there a possibility of another severe earthquake?
I will say, in all possibilities, no, but yes, it may happen, because you see, geologically, this is it's a area is a frontal Himalayan frontal fault, and there are several thrusts. So that disturbs the total equilibrium of the rocks, and it can happen. But I hope it doesn't happen.
No, because these aftershocks, I was traveling in a car and I felt my car move, and I thought maybe the tires run out of air, and people watching would obviously be very concerned about what should their response be. If they're feeling if they're feeling that there's a tremor taking place, what should they be doing?
Best thing is, if you're at the house, go under the table or go hide yourself under the bed. Just do not stay naked, so that if debris falls on your head, you're finished.
Doesn't it make more sense to go out into a park?
It takes time to run out to the park,
but
because generally it is few seconds.
If you're on higher floors, what do you do?
You have to go under the table. If you're on the ground floor or first floor, you can still come out in the.
Atir Khan is joining us about the latest tremors in Delhi. Atir, tell us, what have you and others experienced?
Well, yesterday the tremors were felt in Delhi, Rahul, and the people have felt it, aftershocks. Already there have been numerous aftershocks. There have been 14, and perhaps this is the 15th one which has been reported. And apparently it was of more than 4 intensity on the Richter scale, and even the traffic signals were shaky. The people have felt it. And what we are learning is that these aftershocks will continue, and there could be some more aftershocks through the night.
Okay, I want to go across to Jugal Purohit. He's joining us from the Hindon Air Base. Jugal, you were trying to get on board one of these transport aircraft so that you could report from the ground from Kathmandu. What's the latest status? How many flights have been taken, and does the government have any plan at all to send journalists along with the rescue material that's being sent?
Well, Rahul, that's a question best answered by the government. What we are given to understand right now is that since the priority is to send in as much as relief and rescue effort as well as personnel, we just spoke about how hospitals, field hospitals, operation theatres, load cutting equipment, medicines, all of that is being packed into these gigantic C-17 Globemaster planes. So the effort and the priority right now is to ensure that that reaches Nepal and Kathmandu at the earliest, through helicopters, through planes. Yes, we're of course trying, and the government has in fact informed us that they are making efforts to somehow try and ensure that we get on board. Today there have been a total of 3 sorties which have taken place from the Hindon airplane, one of the C-130 and 2 C-17s. There are also helicopter sorties from Gorakhpur, Bareilly and other areas which are taking place as we speak. Tomorrow morning 2 flights have been already assigned. The same C-17 planes will be taking off from here for Kathmandu. The best part of all of this, Rahul, is that the airport at Kathmandu is operational, and on account of that, heavy material, heavy relief supply and personnel are being able to be pumped in in a very fast pace, and that is what is likely to sustain the operation.
Most of the flights that are taking off from India seem to be going to Kathmandu. What's the plan to send this equipment from Kathmandu to Pokhara, to other places which have been impacted, or is the Indian government landing this equipment in Kathmandu, landing the relief material in Kathmandu, and then handing it over to the Nepali government to take it over from there?
Well, Rahul, that's the reason precisely why the Air Force is not simply dropping equipment, it's sending in dedicated, trained professionals. For example, the field hospital will be run by women IAF officers, doctors, and their dedicated disaster medical trained staff. The NDRF personnel are all specialized personnel in their respective areas of operation. So it's not just about dropping equipment and saying bye. They are there, they're going to be there for as long as it takes. And yes, answering your question, there's a problem of road, there's a problem of connectivity. So what we are given to understand, the grand plan is that the heavier planes go in, land at Kathmandu, whereas from there on helicopters take on smaller loads, chart out areas in consonance with the Nepalese authorities, and then airdrop personnel and material in those areas. I'm also given to understand, Rahul, very quickly, that the Indian Army has also sent a Major General rank officer. We have just interviewed him. We'll get our viewers the interview shortly. He's being sent from here to the Royal Nepalese Army because these are two armies who know each other very, very well, like no two other armies do. And the Nepalese Army has also indicated that it may require the Indian Army's manpower. In what way, in what degree, is something that this officer will go there and negotiate and find out.
The full magnitude of the devastation has not dawned completely yet. We're being told that several swaths of Nepal are completely devastated and destroyed. The Indian Railways is also getting into the rescue operation. Gaurav Sawant has been able to put together some information. Stories are stories of sloth, of slack, of not being able to move fast enough. For the first time, we're seeing a very proactive government that's one step ahead of what needs to be done.
Absolutely, absolutely. Alacrity. I think that they have, there's imagination, there's sensitivity, imagination and alacrity. And I think that that is something we have to commend. But I hope and I'm sure that the government will embed this and make it normal, the new normal, that this is how we react.
Mr. Rumal, in this, the fact that the Prime Minister was responsible for the recovery work after the Bhuj earthquake really seems to have set a template, and that's why he's being able to press the right levers.
That's right. They learned a big lesson in Gujarat, and so we are better prepared today. And in fact, if you have been to Anjar and all, you see how beautiful it is reconstructed after that. Similar thing has to be done in Nepal.
Gaurav Sawant has more details about the railways getting into the rescue effort. A lot of water being sent, Gaurav, by the railways now?
Well, you know, like Ramcharan Mahant, the finance minister of Nepal, was saying everything is required. So everything is being provided. Whatever is available is being sent immediately. 1 lakh water bottles, rail neer. They've already sent it to the Indian Air Force. A C-130 has taken off with this water. That will be provided in Kathmandu. It's not just that everything is being dumped in Kathmandu. The moment it gets there, from there, there are 10 helicopters of the Indian Air Force, 8 Mi-17s, 2 advanced light helicopters, and they will then take it to wherever is required. The Nepal Army and the Indian Army are working in tandem, and Major General Sandhu, who is Additional Director General at Army Headquarters, he will be in Kathmandu later tonight. There is an Air Force Air Vice Marshal who will also be coordinating air efforts. So a lot of effort coming together. 2 emergency hospitals, plug-and-play hospitals will be set up. Engineer units, 2 of them will be dispatched so that they can start rebuilding bridges and roads. You immediately get roads in place first. That C-130 that landed in Kathmandu with that equipment, and those pictures are being put out on our television screen. Well, as soon as that aircraft took off with about 100 Indians on board to bring them back, it took the land route. It almost flew above the road between Kathmandu and Pokhara.
Why is that?
And it was filming that entire road. A C-130 has cameras that film the entire road. It is doing an aerial reconnaissance and flying extremely low.
How many cameras does a C-130 have?
You know, the pilot, the navigator, they're filming everything on board that aircraft. Now, this is a tactical lift aircraft which can fly below the radar. So while it flies below the radar in an emergency, in a wartime situation, in a peacetime situation, it's coming in handy right now, flying so low. They're trained to fly at treetop level. So they're flying at treetop level, gauging the road. Where is the road damaged? Where is the maximum damage? Where do you drop your bulldozers tomorrow? Where do you drop your JCBs tomorrow? So that road construction can start immediately. And the moment road route is there, you need to supply fuel to Nepal. And fuel is one of the biggest requirements. In case Ramcharan Mahant is saying 5,000 is the casualty that's feared, then cremations will have to start taking place, mass cremations. You would require a lot of fuel for that, wood for that. All of that needs to be done now, otherwise there'll be a secondary disaster.
But a lot of this Nepal would have. or does all of that need to be sent from India?
Do you know, at this time, I would say Nepal always has stocks of fuel, that is petroleum. Actually, I think they take the refineries are not so prominent in Kathmandu. They do have, but they depend on India land route. This is where diesel and petrol goes from. So I was just when Gaurav was talking, I was just saying, how is the fuel going to reach even for even intra-country movement of any kind? Even the Nepal army, the Nepal forces that are going to be out for rehabilitation, etc. How is that going to happen?
Gaurav, have you heard back from the Air Force officers who were on those flights? When they were filming the scale of devastation on the way back from Kathmandu to Hindon, what did they see around them?
They will be landing at 10:30 tonight. So 10:30 is where we know what's the latest situation, the extent of damage. They will be reporting back to the Western Air Command and Air Headquarters for the next decision.
Okay, my colleague Jugal Purohit is at the Hindon Air Base, which is where a lot of these transport aircraft are being mobilized. And sorties are being arranged all the way to Kathmandu. Let's listen to what Jugal is telling us from Hindon this evening. Jugal.
Given the magnitude of the tragedy that has hit Nepal, possibly the most important assistance that could be rendered is the medical assistance. Any effort in saving lives and limbs is the most important one. I'm now joined by the Indian Air Force's Rapid Advanced Medical Team. Ma'am, please tell us, what is the job that you want to do and how will you be helping the Nepalese citizens?
We are heading the Rapid Action Medical Team, which carries a 25-bedded air-conditioned sheltered hospital to Kathmandu. We can set up a hospital there overnight and start treating patients by tomorrow morning. It's a self-dependent unit which carries with itself an operation theatre and is self-sustained. We don't need any other assistance from outside to work.
What about the medicines? Because that is one thing which you will find yourself running out of very, very quickly. Can you tell us, are you having adequate stocks of medicine? How do you arrange for all of this logistics?
We have adequate supplies with us. Not only medicines, we have all the basic facilities and amenities provided to us, and we are capable of providing and giving treatment. Even we can, surgeon can operate also in this setup. Okay. So we have an operation theatre also, and we can at a time treat 25 patients. We can keep them as inpatients.
Okay. Now, one more thing from you. A conflict is one thing, but you are trained medically and this is a disaster. What kind of training do you have to ensure that you can operate efficiently in these areas?
Well, we have trained for the disaster management and trauma care actually. Okay. So when the casualties come, we have to prioritize. According to priority, we will act. Okay. It's a challenge for us too.
Okay. And ma'am, can you please tell us, what's the strength of your team? How many officers, men? What are the specialists that you're carrying along with you?
So we are both medically trained. We have a trained nursing officer, and there are 20 medically trained men who have been moving with Rapid Action Medical Team previously also. So they are specialists in this kind of a disaster situation.
And my last question, ma'am, obviously a lot of rubble, debris, people trapped underneath, injuries, severe head injuries and all of that. Can you tell us, your team is equipped to render assistance in what all kinds of cases?
The most common cases that we are expecting as of now are going to be crush injuries, which are basically require surgical intervention. So we'll be expecting lots of patients with crush injuries and external injuries. And over a couple of days, what we'll be expecting is patients with gastroenteritis and because of polluted water. So those kind of cases might start coming in.
It's going to be an evolving situation from day one onwards.
Definitely, it's not as if we'll get one particular type of patients. As the days pass on, we'll get different types of patients. So immediately what we are expecting is when we go, we'll be coming across patients who require first aid in the form of surgical intervention.
Good luck to your team and your men. Thank you so much. Today you saw a team of the Indian Air Force led by these women officers all set to reach Nepal and render what, as I said, is possibly the most important assistance. With Premchand Mishra at the Hindon Air Base, Jugal Purohit reporting for Headlines Today.
That was Jugal Purohit reporting from the Hindon Air Base. Gaurav, what's the plan from here on? We're seeing medical teams being sent. What will happen through the night tonight?
Through the night, these two hospitals, 25-bed hospitals, they will be taken to Kathmandu. As of now, both these hospitals will be in Kathmandu. Whatever emergencies are there, the 10 helicopters that get to Nepal, they will bring those emergencies to these hospitals, because this is where all the effort will be made to rescue people, rehabilitate them. If it's a major emergency, get them back to India. Now, there are several Indians who are there in Nepal who need to be brought back. All these aircraft that are going into Nepal, they will bring the Indians back. And if you have relatives in Nepal, Indians in Nepal, you just need to contact the Indian embassy and get them back. Now, helicopters will play an extremely crucial role. Rahul, you and I reported the Kedarnath tragedy. That is where Indian Air Force helicopters were landing on just one skid tip on the corner of a mountain and rescuing people. Now, such operations will be mounted over the next several days to bring people back to safety, to drop food, relief material to where they are if people are trapped. Then the bigger task, that is rehabilitation, that task will begin, and that is going to be extremely crucial. Prevent secondary diseases. Dead bodies mean diseases, and not just 5,000 human beings, God forbid, but there are also animals. They will need to be disposed of. So it's going to be a huge task from this point on.
Okay, Jugal Purohit is with us at this time from the Hindon Air Base live. Jugal, what word are we getting from all the teams that have been to Kathmandu? What is the extent of damage? What's the word coming back?
Well, Rahul, the images that these personnel who've been flown and the news that they're sharing here with us talks about absolute devastation. Many of them, in fact, who have seen Kathmandu in better times are unable to even piece together the reality and the magnitude with which the earthquake struck them this morning. Also, Rahul, what I'm aware of, and this is an important piece of breaking news for our viewers, is that a plane from Kathmandu has taken off with 52 Indians on board. This plane is likely to land at Delhi at around 12, is what I'm given to understand. This will be the first set of survivors who will be coming out from Kathmandu into Delhi, and this plane, as I said, has just taken off 52 Indians on board. This is, as I said, the first set of survivors who will be coming out. Of course, we'll be sharing their stories with you, but that's what's happening right now. So it's not only about a one-way traffic of load, relief and men from India, but also the other side is that of extricating Indians, just like what we saw in Yemen and previously in Iraq and Libya in the earlier years. This is also another side to the entire effort of pulling Indians out in as many numbers as possible. The first batch of 52, as we are breaking on headlines today, slated to arrive, has taken off already from Kathmandu.
Okay, Gaurav, are we planning to help only the Indians, or will this help also be extended to all other nationalities that are in Nepal?
Well, there are 3 lakh foreigners at this point of time in Nepal. 300,000 foreign tourists in Nepal.
This is the peak tourism season for them.
Peak tourism season, peak trekking season, peak mountaineering season. So they all are desperate to come out. Priority 1 is to get Indians out. I was just speaking to a friend in the External Affairs Ministry. He said, we're getting Indians out, but then we'll get whoever wants to come out.
Like we did in Yemen.
Yeah, that's right.